like an auntie, true auntie. And of course, I want my Parsi pearls to match. There was one scene, which was like a bit of a make-out scene, which I was like, oh God, I was like, Mom, Dad, can I please do it? And my mother looks at me and she says, Koi tari saate lagan nahi karte. You know, Perizaad, people will assume you're dating the actor. Like my husband, I said, what nonsense? Don't be stupid, he's a Buddha. You should do at least one movie a year. And I'm like, just shut up.
Hi, Peri.
Hi, Bani, how are you?
I am so good. Thank you so much for coming. You look so lovely.
And I'm sitting here looking at you and envying the skin and envying the complexion, and you're a stunner yourself.
Oh, thank
and
you
envying
so
how
much.
bright and wonderful and what good energy you exude.
Thank
Really,
you.
God bless you.
We literally were so excited because I have to tell you that growing up, my favorite song was actually from one of your films.
Oh God, growing up, there, I feel like an auntie, true auntie. And of course, I want my Parsi pearls to match, so I really look
But
like
you
an
don't
Asian.
look like an auntie
That's so sweet.
at
Thank you.
all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
I don't feel like one actually.
yeah.
You know, I still have the zest and I still have the, my dreams are still as large as they were when I was younger.
As it should be.
And that's how it is. That's how it should be. But thank you. Which is your favorite song?
Badi Nazar.
Arey, lovely. But Joggers Park really had one better song than the other. Really, it was such a beautiful movie.
That movie, that music was just unbelievable.
And it touched a chord and everyone.
Yeah.
You know, young and old.
Young
there's
and
always,
old.
it's amazing.
It was my Nanu's favorite song also.
So you don't know how many, I think I became every older person's favorite girl.
Yeah.
Whether it was male or female.
Because in the movie
so
you were.
Exactly. Yeah, but the thing was, Bani, even not just the older men, but the older women.
Yeah.
Also, we love you. My husband's a big fan. I'm like, aren't you threatened by me at all? I guess, the vibe of the film was so, real.
Yeah, it was really
that
well written.
It was, no one, was judgmental about it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beauty of Joggers
Yeah.
Park. Now it's a Bollywood classic.
It is a classic.
I see it on Emirates and all. It's in the Bollywood classic list.
Yeah.
And I tell my children, see,
Have they
Mama's movie. Yeah, of course, they
seen
have. Yeah, they have.
What did they think of it?
So they think it's funny that they find it awkward to see
Yeah.
mom a younger version of mom in shorts and fit and they don't see that, but I think they're very proud.
Yeah.
They're proud. Yeah,
Must
they
be.
make fun of me.
Really?
Yeah, they're nasty.
Then mommy was.
They're nasty.
Yeah.
They're not nasty in a bad way,
Yeah.
but they're young teenagers, right? So they're very proud.
Yeah.
But I think they're prouder of their mom, who's a chicken seller at this point of time. So the murgiwali, they've seen that side much more, right? Because I've been working at Zorabian over the last, 14 years.
Yeah. So, that's what we wanted to ask you. So, you've done movies, you've done music videos, you've done theatre, and now you've built a business empire. Such diversity in your professional journey.
Right.
Would you have done anything differently to get here?
No. So, when I was 8 years old, and someone said, what do you want to grow? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I would say entrepreneur, without even being able to pronounce the word.
Or spell it.
Correctly. Spelling it, chhod do. You know what I'm saying? But, I've always been daddy's girl. And always wanted to kind of, I had an uncle who went to the US to do his MBA.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to kind of get an MBA and come back and, help my father run his business.
Yeah.
At the same time, I, of course, was doing ballet for 12 years. I'm a classical a ballet dancer.
Tough.
Yes, yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Ballet is a very tough dance
it's a discipline, but it's beautiful. So I did 12 years of that, gave exams at the Royal Academy of Dance in London. I was always on stage doing elocution. Never ever thought that I'd be an actor. I think it just, being at the right time, the right place, picking the right opportunity, made that whole acting thing happen. But the desire and the dream was always Zorabian, right? And I think I kind of went with the flow. I wouldn't say I got I don't think I got waylaid or whatever. I just think I went with the flow, took every opportunity that came my way.
Yeah.
But everything just happened very, very organically. Nothing was like contrived.
Yeah.
And I love and I miss that Perizaad, who took that opportunity, who took every opportunity, didn't take success or failure too seriously.
Yeah.
Just did what made her happy. And I think, life paid me back in great ways.
Of course
Yeah.
it has.
Yeah.
You have fans of now both, right? Your movies.
Right now I think
and
I'm
your
more
chicken.
fans of Zorabian chicken, right? And I was like telling you earlier, I meet people and they would come up to me earlier. Everyone would come up to me and say, oh my God, Perizaad, huge fan. Why aren't you acting anymore?
Yeah.
And now more often than not, I have people coming up and saying, oh Perizaad, I love your chicken. And I'm like, shit, what about the actor? Is she forgotten? Because I haven't done any piece of acting in a while.
Yeah.
Right? I haven't done that. Yeah. But it's good. It's good. Both are equally kind of.
You're known for
I've got
both.
I've got great love and respect with both, and that's a big thing.
But would you like to ever consider going back to acting? Like, do you miss it at all?
Yes, I do. So I did a play called Dinner with Friends with Feroz Khan, and every time, and I was working at Zorabian, but every time I was on stage, I would always say, like, that was my moment of nirvana. Because at that point, I was not thinking children. I was not thinking chicken.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking anything, but I was in that moment on stage.
Yeah.
Just me and the character, the craft, and the audience, right? And it was, so I love being on stage. I was hosting an event, and I was interviewing Mrs. Ambani.
Yeah.
And there's so much happening in my life at this point of time. But the minute I got on stage, for that 1.5 hour, nothing of the outside world was able to touch me and touch my, mental space.
Yeah.
So yes, I miss it.
Yeah.
So, but I think I love working with Zorabian as much.
Yeah.
But do I wish I was doing more of acting?
Yeah.
I wish I could.
So
Do I have the time? I don't.
Okay, can we use this as an opportunity then to just say that, if people have great scripts, then maybe reach out to Perry?
Honey, I'm telling you, I'm so fortunate, right?
Yeah.
I still have people reach out to me.
Yeah.
But of course it'll be a mother to someone, and not that I have an issue playing a mother to a young teenager. I don't. But I think content-wise, it really the script has to be great, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to be taking time away from work, and
it comes at a huge cost for you
Yes.
because of your business.
yes, exactly. So
Right.
if it's going to be taking me away from work,
Yeah.
it needs to give me some creative satisfaction,
Yeah.
right? So I don't have the liberty of just doing a small role and waiting on a set endlessly till my part comes on.
Yeah.
And I think, even as an entrepreneur, with God's grace, I've got so much of respect. I mean, when I do something on screen or whether it's stage, creatively,
Yeah.
it has to be able to match up to the person I am as an entrepreneur now.
100%.
It can't be some choto-moto, some nonsense
Yeah,
where
yeah,
my whole
yeah.
team will wonder, like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah,
Has
totally.
ma'am lost the plot? She's got so much other responsibility, and why would she be doing something that's so
Yeah.
insignificant?
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
in a way, I don't have the luxury of doing that, So, I mean, I would definitely do something that was, like,
Meaningful.
if it really, meaningful.
Meaningful, meaty, inspiring, impactful.
And give me, like, creative joy.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't have to be a film, it could be theatre. Right? So it doesn't matter, right? As long as it's hugely substantial.
Yeah.
And as long as, like, at this point I'm a little, like, spoiled. I think, boss, it has to be worth my while.
Yeah.
And I say it in absolutely the most humble way possible.
Yeah. So, we want to talk a little bit about your acting career.
Yeah.
And you made what is possibly at that point in time considered a risky debut. Right? It was a very different film. I remember it. It was almost like a commentary that was against the industry in some sense.
Yeah.
How did it feel to have that film be your first?
So to begin with, there was no agenda of being an actress, right? So when there was no agenda of being an actress, there was no, it was never looked at as a career move.
Yeah.
I had just come back from the US. I was in New York doing my MBA. I went to Strasbourg for a year and a half for fun. So I had come back and I was working with my father. A friend of mine was who studied with me in the US was down on a holiday. I got a call from Mona Irani saying Nagesh Kukunor is casting for this English film. I had seen Hyderabad Blues and I love the movie.
Love the movie.
So I said, oh my God, it's that director.
Yeah.
And Mona's like, listen, Perizaad, do you want to go? And Mehdi was in town.
Yeah.
And he's an investment banker, but a secret photographer. And he's like, Perizaad, let's go. Come on, pursue your dreams. I'm like, are you crazy? But he's like, let's do it. And I actually drove with him.
Yeah.
And I went for the screen test. And, the fact that it was in English, the fact that I love Nagesh Kukunor.
Yeah.
And I auditioned for the part.
Yeah.
And I had such a good time auditioning,
Yeah.
not realizing I would get chosen. Right? And when I got chosen, of course, there was one scene, which was like a bit of a make-out scene, which I was like, oh God, I was like, Mom, Dad, can I please do it? And my mother looks at me and she says, koi tari saate lagan nahi kar se. And I'm like, Mom, it's going to be aesthetically shot, please. And then I loved the script.
Yeah.
And Nagesh was, such an unusual director, right? He was like, he gave me the whole script to read. It was 1 month, start to finish. So I took leave from my dad because I was working with him. And I was like, Papa, can I just go and shoot this? It's just like 1 month. And I'm a Parsi. There was no agenda of being part of Bollywood.
Yeah.
So I did the film because I loved the script. I thought it was hysterical. There was Om Puri, an actor I thought was amazing, and Navin Nishchal.
What was that experience like?
Unbelievable. Because I was with a director who was so modern in his thinking.
Yeah.
The crew was all like young and completely organized. So it wasn't a typical movie in any sort of way.
Yeah.
You had like internationally, like Om Puri was like the god internationally as well.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I genuinely, I swear to God, believed that it would be a 1 month thing.
Yeah.
And life would go back to normal.
Yeah.
I shot.
Yeah.
I went back to work.
Yeah.
Only for the film to release 2 years later to become a super hit.
Yeah.
And then life kind of changed dramatically.
Yeah. 180?
But like fully,
Yeah.
360. Not even 180, 360, it took a full turn, right?
Yeah.
But, and also I was at, like I said, the right time, right place.
Yeah.
I think this whole offbeat cinema took off.
Yeah.
Because there was Bollywood Calling and there was Monsoon Wedding, right? So there was Konkana, there was me, and then, I think we were like the 2 big names at that point in independent offbeat cinema.
Yeah.
And it was just, life just kind of threw great offers my way.
Yeah.
And I kind of, had the opportunity to work with a Shabana Azmi in Morning Raga, a Rahul Bose in whether it was Mumbai Matinee, or
That was also another
isn't it
movie.
wasn't it funny? And Anand, who directed Mumbai Matinee, directed Joggers Park.
Yeah.
Again, Victor Banerjee. Then my first Hindi movie was Amitabh Bachchan and Ek Ajnabi. Again, Apurva Lakhia was very modern, thinking anyone this modern actress. So it kind of all I think worked out.
But all your movies, if you see the filmography, they're all very different choices.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm not typically looking from any angle. I mean, every time I audition for a commercial, for a typical, Indian girl or whatever, right? For every commercial, I would get to the top 2.
Yeah.
And then the client would say, but she doesn't look Indian enough. Then they'd say, color her hair dark, put more kajal, and the look would still not change, right? So I think because I also look so unusual, I think the Parsi look is so distinct that, all the characters I played, were different.
No, but I think it also has something to do with your intellect as a choice also.
No, of course, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like you chose, they
So
were all risky choices, that
they were all choices that I think worked with my sensibility.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, English films, like all these independent genre films, were risky.
Yeah.
They kind of, they weren't following anything conventional.
Yeah, now
So-
they have a place on OTT.
Yeah.
But
At
back
that
in
point,
the day,
at that
would
point,
they work
yeah,
at the box
yeah,
office
yeah,
and one didn't know.
No.
Right?
Yeah. So it was I think life is all about the right time, the right place, and taking the right opportunity. It's
And
always,
take that from
it's
this.
always that. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
You were also part of a Chinese film.
Yes,
You
I
played
did
Indira
Indira Gandhi.
How
So
was that?
it was amazing. So Uma Jakuna called me up. She saw Bollywood Calling, and that time, that was the Chinese casting director saw a glimpse of that film. And I got called in for an audition, and Uma said, Perizaad, we want you to come in a sari and no makeup at all. And I'm like, I had all these glam saris, right? Like all these chum ones. But she wanted a plain cotton sari.
Yeah.
And of course, I borrowed my best friend Rashmi's mum, she's South Indian,
Yeah.
her white sari, which just had a little gold border.
Yeah.
And no makeup. And I went to audition for Indira Gandhi. And all he looked at me and he says, the nose, oh my God, you have a nose to the profile. I was like, the Parsi nose kind of worked. And of course, I did the audition, and I think I did the audition really well. The fact that it was in English, so whilst I think if my Hindi was better, I would have done way more Hindi movies. But because my English was so strong, I think a lot of international filmmakers are very happy to work with me because there was no discomfort in that language. I speak Hindi, but I'm not as fluent. Yeah, but I'm not as fluent as I am in English. So I think that also helped me. The fact that the nose and the face, the features, Mrs. Gandhi kind of being, half Parsi, so the whole look kind of, I fit in perfectly.
But so iconic.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It'll go down in
3
history.
months of my life in China, and
Yeah.
it was the largest studio with like the Amitabh Bachchan of China.
Yeah.
Who played the role. It was unbelievable. Who played the Chinese Prime Minister. It was unbelievable. It was 3 months of my life. Again, things that I think a lot of the Indian actors would not have done. Because,
I agree.
you know what I'm saying? So we had actors who flew in from all over the world. But the fact that I was at Strasbourg, the fact that, like I had no ego, and there was no spot boy and makeup artist and the whole entourage couldn't follow me. I think very few would have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I was, right? So my whole mindset was different. So that opportunity came my way, but I also was able to take that forward. Because I was okay with not having all the other drama that I would normally have had if I was shooting a film in Bombay. But of course, when I went to, I did a film with Malcolm McDowell in London for 2 months. So of course you have their crew, but you're working with their crew, you're working with their production. You have no one kind of, madam, aapka chai, ya madam, aapka ye. But that's okay, when you kind of, I think, put yourself in like those waters, you always experience, good things.
Yeah, and I think growth anyway happens in discomfort.
In areas of discomfort, completely.
It can't happen if
Such
you're
a
just...
wise young girl. Look at you. Look at you. Totally. It's only when, you're not bogged down by wanting to stay in that comfort zone. Can you kind of really allow great opportunities to come your way and experience them? Yeah. So when I say that's the Perizaad I miss, that's really the Perizaad I miss.
But why has that changed?
No, because now I'm like, oh God, now I'm married, I have 2 children, I'm responsible, I have the exams, and you know what I mean, I have a business, and I have so much to handle. So life kind of and responsibility kind of, the spontaneity gets killed, right?
Yeah, the freedom of youth then.
Yeah, and the freedom of not just being able to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So it's not just youth, it's also the responsibility that I kind of helm at this point in time.
The children, the husband, the home, the business.
The poor husband, is completely supportive.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't really take that much of my bandwidth.
Yeah.
It's more the children and the business right now. I think I have the most supportive spouse in Boman. And he's the most evolved human being on the planet. So
I love him.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
So he doesn't, he's so undemanding in so many ways.
Yeah.
And he's so encouraging in every way.
Yeah.
He keeps telling me, you should do at least 1 movie a year. And I'm like, just shut up. You know what I mean? But, he's not the one stopping me.
Yeah.
Right? It's just my sense of responsibility and my commitment to time.
Do you know, by the way, that of course the both of you are objectively so good looking?
That's so sweet.
And in Credai, because both of you are so
I have
successful.
been told that he's better looking than me, by the way.
Why? Who is this
Can I
person?
tell
Can
you
we
how?
catch hold
Can
of
I
them?
tell you how nasty people are? So I remember when I was shooting, and I met Baman, of course, and we were going to get married. So I was shooting somewhere in town, and Baman came to meet me. So he walks into my makeup van, and my makeup artist Viren, who's done like most of my films with me, looks at Baman the first time, and he's just like, Perizaad, ये तो बहुत good looking है. I said, हाँ, तो क्या समझता है? मैं कुछ
so
किसी
I
से
deserve that
मैं
only.
किसी से भी शादी करूँगी
हाँ,
क्या?
हाँ.
He said, नहीं वैसा नहीं बोल रहा हूँ मैं. वो आपसे भी better looking है. I'm like Viren. इतने सारे picture में आपके साथ. I have given you work. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And then of course, Zaha's friend tells her. She sees in my family there's a family room. There's a wall with pictures of us getting married, and then the children, and just like just the whole 14 years of marriage kind of on that one wall. And her best friend says, looking at the wedding picture, your mom was quite a catch, huh? Like, I don't know how your dad convinced her. And then looks at the other picture, which is recent, and says, but your dad's aged much better than your mom. And I'm like, let that kid come to my house again, I'm going to kick her ass, So no, Baman's a very, very good looking guy. But I think, he's so disciplined, and he's so like, so I think he's maintained himself
He's
like
very
physically. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
So his charm is because he's also very real.
Yeah.
And he's very genuine, right? So both of us are very real and genuine. Yeah. But he's also extremely hot. Yeah. Because I let him gray, so that's salt and pepper hair. Yeah, and he's extremely fit. Yeah.
My mom also forbade my dad from, like, she was just like, when he started going, she's like, I love this, keep it, it looks good.
So when Zaha was like, I don't want my papa to look old. But I'm like, Mama, so Richard Gere was like a big, like, like a biggie for me, right? Yeah. So I was like, it looks just so, and then with COVID, Baman let all the hair, kind of the grays come in, and I think it adds to his character. He looks super hot.
Yeah, so by the way,
now I have journalists come and tell me, your husband's a real hottie. I'm like, will you stop now? Will you continue and tell me something that was different? But that's so sweet. He's also an incredible guy.
Yeah. He's amazing. But you both, because you're both, in such different spaces and such great entrepreneurs in your respective fields, you're considered like a power couple in Credai. I swear, we were on a trip, some of us folks in Japan recently. And of course, we were talking about like, the sort of older generation, they were just like, no, but like Boman sir and his wife are like this power couple, and they're both so good looking, and they're both so successful. And I was like, I have to tell you that you're very admired individually and along with your partner.
Thank you. I think this is a huge compliment. Yeah. And I think we both complement each other in a big way.
Did people think you're marrying Boman Irani, the actor?
Yes. When we got, this is like hysterical. I first met Boman, my husband, when Boman Irani, the actor, and me were judging an event for Boman Rustamji.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, my
God. So the first time I met my husband, Boman, was when Boman Irani, the actor, and me was sitting on a panel judging Unsung Hero, which is like the best teacher in India, at an event at the NCPA. And that's where we first met. And I remember Boman Irani, the actor, calling me the next day, saying, Perizaad, I chokro bo majeno hai. And this is his date of birth, and this is this, and this is that. I said, please, Boman, I'm not even interested. To me, it's ridiculous. And I put the phone down. Little did he know that Boman had already called me up and said, hey, do you want to do coffee? Which, of course, I said yes to. And, the rest was history. But when it broke in the papers, and they said Boman Irani.
Yeah, they thought
everyone thought it was.
Also, he was married at the time, no? That must have been complicated.
And Zenobia, his wife, she has the same birthday as me, but that's like a separate thing. And Zenobia said, Perizaad, people will assume you're dating the actor, like my husband. I said, what nonsense? Don't be stupid. He's a Buddha. Definitely not, but everyone did. He was so angry with me. But even now, right? If we were at Royal China. like last week. And we went for dinner as a family. And the manager's like, oh, ma'am, you married this Boman Irani? I'm like, yeah, you know. So it happened, like, if you check into hotels and someone would think that it's the actor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we get all the privileges still. And all the, all the upgrades. So that's the common joke with Boman, the actor, and us.
Yeah.
That, the bouquets sometimes still come to my house. And, we're like, he's like, keep the bouquet. It's okay. Just tell me whose name it was. And, that happens. Yeah. So a lot of people thought that. Yeah.
But tell us something, you've been now successfully running Zorabian for,
14 years.
14 years. What made you make that transition from acting to then being a serious full-time entrepreneur, taking forward the family legacy?
Right. So, like I said, Bani, the plan was always to be the entrepreneur. I went to the US, I did my MBA for Zorabian. I came back because my dad wrote me this little love letter that when are you coming back? As per the plan, you were supposed to come back as soon as
That 1 month cost you too much, yeah. One movie.
No, exactly, fully. But in the US, when I was coming back, I finished my 2-year MBA. And I had a friend at Lee Strasberg, and I'm like, Papa, I've studied so hard all my life. Can I do like this acting course? He's like, what? I said, Papa, come on, it's Lee Strasberg. It's like the best in the world. Can I please do it? And he was always like, live and let live. He said, Acha, karine aao, chal. And then after 1 year, it became too much. So he was like, he wrote me this long letter on, when you're going to come back. I have so many plans for you.
Yeah.
And of course, I packed my bags because I was like, I'm not going to be a struggling actor in New York. And I better get my ass and come back to Bombay. And I came back and I was working with Dad. Now Mona met me at a Navjot, then that movie happened.
Yeah.
Then I did that movie and I went back to Zorabian. And I was buying makka and soya because at that point I was handling purchases.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with traders and I was doing all of that. So I was very much back at Zorabian.
Yeah.
Then the movie released. And it became a super hit.
Yeah.
And then life just went completely out of gear.
Yeah.
And I was still going back and forth between movies back in the office.
So you're never really out of the business. You were just...
No, but my dad at one point said, listen, you cannot be ek pag iya, ek pag ta. In Gujarati, that means like 1 foot here, 1 foot there.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, you're young, live your dream. You have your father, he's your security net. Do what you have to do. When you come back, give it your 100%.
Yeah.
And God bless him because, my career took off. I was doing what I loved. And he used to say, I lost my daughter to Bollywood. But then I came back. When I was pregnant. Like, I'm not someone who can sit at home.
Yeah.
So I was shooting till the 6th month. And then the minute I couldn't shoot anymore because my tummy was kind of, showing.
Continuity issues.
Yeah, fully continuity issues. Then there was a packaging situation at Zorabian where my dad sent me some packaging to check. And I said, Dad, it's so down market. And he gave me 2-3 bad words. Iranis give full bad words. He's like, nakha na kar, moti baat na kar. Like, don't act like a snob.
Yeah.
If you can fix it, fix it.
Yeah.
So
do something about it.
Do about it. Don't buddy, I've paid your money. I've educated you. I've got you the MBA. And you got guts to tell me that my work is down market. He to jhap me. And I, connected with some designers and I went to the office to design that packaging. And then I realized that there was no team handling who could handle retail. Because Zorabian till then was always a wholesale brand.
Yeah.
And my dad was also going through financially really stressful time. And then I got sucked into that.
That's what I was going to ask you next. You actually went in and, owned it when it was going through a rough patch.
It was probably going through its worst.
Yeah.
So, seeing my father like that, seeing the business like that. And he had put up this factory for the sausages and salami and with nobody equipped to doing retail.
Yeah.
I kind of, and I was pregnant. My acting was pretty much done. Everything kind of works out.
Yeah.
I jumped right back in.
Yeah.
And it gave me a sense of fulfillment because I would have killed Boman had I been a housewife sitting there with a big stomach, waiting for that baby to pop.
Yeah.
And I went back to work. I would be working every single day, 7 a.m. in the morning. Boman would leave me. I would sit in the Innova, drive 1 hour, 10 minutes to the farm, work all day, and drive right back, leave at 5-ish, be back home by 7. And I had a happy life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the kids were born. I took a break of a year and a half, but I went back into the business, and it's the best thing.
Yeah.
It gave me a sense of like validation.
Yeah.
So whilst my dad kept saying, thank you, I think had Zorabian not existed, post the acting, if I just become a mother and a wife, I think I would have been a mess.
Yeah.
So I think
You wouldn't have felt like you were doing justice to you.
I would have been lost. So I think, Zorabian has given me so much validation.
Yeah.
Right? That, so it's given me purpose, it's given me so much. So as much as I've given the business, and as much as I've kind of grown the entire retail business and I've done everything, I think it's rescued me in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. Also, the space that you're in is pretty male dominated, right? Like,
poultry,
what was...
It was even then. So even when I came back from the US, I was dealing with like live traders, and I was dealing with the soya and makka wala, and even today, my father passed away on June 5th. And, my brothers have kind of, asked me to help the business. And, I work with over 500 people. And I don't think at any point of time have they made me feel like a woman. They've always given me that respect. I think my father always gave me that respect. And I think I also work like an equal. Right? I kind of, my father always told me being my daughter or being a woman or playing any of those cards is not going to get you respect. Respect has to be earned in that business, right? And I think, I earned his respect, and my respect with every single person that I work with. So I don't fear from like getting my hands dirty. I don't fear from understanding something. So I mean, so I started off handling sales, marketing, and operations, and distribution was a big like challenge because it's retail, and from just dumping it into hotels and catering units, now it's gone into like 2,000 stores all across Bombay, and we do our own distribution. And they're like, nahi ho sakta hai, agar nahi ho sakta hai, to madam wahan pe hai. So I wouldn't shy away from waking up at 3 in the morning because that's when the chicken comes from the farm. And watch how the dispatch happens. And then it goes in from the bigger trucks into the smaller vehicles that go all across Bombay. And understanding that entire flow. So when the new cold room was built in Bombay, they figured, the ante room was too small. I'm like, I was very much part of the dispatch, part of the process. I'm a bit of a geek. So I'm very
passionate about the process.
I'm very process driven. I'm very like, I like to dot my I's and cross my T's, and I'm a nerd to the ultimate degree. Like, so and I think sometimes like I'm not able to understand anything if it's all haphazard. Like my dad would look at some numbers and just get it at hello, unless I place a number a certain way and everything is in the right box, in the right thing. Like it doesn't make sense to me. So I think that's worked as an advantage because I've been able to set up so many processes right through the company because that's the only way I'm able to understand, and kind of, poultry is a very, very vast business. And right now I'm looking at the farming aspect of it as well, which was never my area of it. I didn't look at it at all. And all of a sudden I've got the whole business to look at. And thank God, I'm like a little nerd. Like that day there was a training for the contract farmers and the doctors had me sitting there for the whole training. They're like, madam, aap kya kar rahe ho? I said, nahi, I need to understand. Because if I understand, will I make sure that that is part of the process and the protocol, with how the entire contract farming system will run. So you saying it and them listening to it is not going to get execution. Boss, if I hear it as well, I'll make sure that the damn thing becomes part of our SOPs, right? So that's the only way I manage it.
Aja, we've seen some of your old interviews, where you were very honest about how motherhood is not easy. And you've said that.
Yes, well, mine are 13 and 15 now, so I guess, but it's still not easy. But yes.
And what has been your greatest challenge having been a mother of two? Like, what do you think was the hardest part of being a mother?
I think the hardest part of being a mother is and especially a working mother, right, is the guilt.
The mom guilt.
It's that,
Yeah.
right? Balancing time is another big thing,
Yeah.
right? So even for me, my best friend's coming from the US. She's living in my building. I want to go meet my mother who's on top. But, my kids' exams are there and I haven't done history with him and I haven't done geography with him. And, okay, in those classes, when do I get the time to be able to, crack that with him? So I think that my greatest stress point as a parent and as a working parent and as a working mother is time.
Yeah.
And time and guilt are just kind of interwoven.
Yeah.
So that's like
There's
the
no
big,
escaping that.
that's like the only thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, I don't think I have anything different from like
Yeah.
any other parent.
Yeah.
So we have the same growing up challenges. We have a lot of that, but it is just time.
Yeah.
And I think from a mother perspective also, I don't think I can have a secretary manage my time schedule, my kid's schedule. So whether it is me having to, pick up a change or me having to, coordinate a change in tuitions or classes or drivers, so everything is very structured. All classes are color coded. There are laminates in every room, on the fridge. There's a home team chat where instructions are given, so that I'm not constantly disturbed during work.
Yeah, but that's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you would lose your mind.
So if you give me a teacher that keeps changing schedules, I can't work with that person. Because I'm not going to, have a secretary deal with my children and their teachers. Like, I still want to be that typical mom.
Yeah.
But, I need structure in my life.
And
So
that
it's
helps
tough.
with the coordination of everything. Strangely, there's been a study that actually says that children of working mothers actually have a greater chance at being successful in their careers. That the daughters, do better at work, and the sons make better partners. So in society, unfortunately, there's still this archaic thought process that if you're a working mom, you're not giving enough to your children. But statistically, it's been proven otherwise.
So, my son will always have my husband as a role model, right?
Yeah.
Because he sees how Papa's handling mom.
Yeah.
How Papa makes kind of, like Boman does back me in a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And the children see that.
Yeah.
So I think Zayan will be an exemplary husband.
Yeah.
Thanks to Boman.
Yeah.
Because seeing how Boman handles me.
Yeah.
And I think both children, Zaha, like my daughter's the older one, and although they're just 2 years apart, like she's not a mother to Zayan, but she's been the only person at home. Of course, I have great staff. I don't have a mother-in-law at home.
Yeah.
So I'm a nuclear family.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no mother-in-law or anyone backing me up, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we have the most amazing support system at home, and they're all like family.
Yeah.
But Zaha has been not a mother, but like a protective big sister to Zayan. So I think she's so much more mature, and she's so independent in so many ways, and she's like this protective, she's been this protective force around my son, which is great.
Yeah.
Right? So even like I think she's far more, people call her an old soul.
Yeah.
People say Zaha's like so mature,
Yeah.
She's so sensible. I think it's because she's been a survivor since she was little.
Yeah.
So, after I leave and go to work, if she talks badly to the maid and the didi, they're going to give her grief, right?
Yeah.
So you know how it is. It's those daily life battles which you have to survive and win. Because your mom's not there to watch your back.
Yeah.
Which makes you like...
Which makes you so independent.
Independent. In a huge way.
Yeah.
In a huge way. So I think my kids are going to be good.
I think
now she wants to go to boarding school. Of course, we have said, no way, we're not going to allow that. But yeah. That's so lovely to know though.
Yeah. So tell us what's next for you. What are the plans now?
What's next for me? I have a legacy to carry forward.
A beautiful one.
And a hugely beautiful one.
Yeah.
There's so much that my dad and myself and my brother, we were all planning.
Yeah.
To take Zorabian to the next level with this whole online onslaught. There's so much happening. To continue to stay relevant, to kind of branch out and do more stuff. My younger brother wants to do, he believes in agriculture and organic vegetables, and he wants to go down that space as well. So there was so much that was in the pipeline, and my father kind of passed away so unexpectedly, which is so annoying.
So sorry for your loss.
It was horrible, yeah. So, there was all of that stuff that was in discussion in a way. So I pretty much have the whole roadmap that I have to just execute. Right? So I wear my little Zorabian shirt.
I've seen that and I love it.
I have he used to wear a gold chain with some 100 gods lockets around it. I wear that every day like a little warrior princess. And I go to work, to execute that legacy. We have a great team. We have people who work with us for 20 years, 30 years. And people who were part of, the entire journey that Zorabian has taken.
The crew here, by the way, is a fan of the jigger.
Oh, see, I love you guys. Thank you. But if you're in Bombay, who isn't, right? If you're a quality conscious consumer, you want Zorabian.
I wouldn't know because I'm Asian,
but I'm going to make you taste ready to cook stuff that's available in Delhi all across. I'm going to put a vegetarian, Punjabi, vegetarian. You won't even know. When you ever change, No, but so the future is legacy. It's to kind of do justice to his legacy. There was a whole roadmap. There was a whole vision plan to kind of really take that to the next level. I think I'm even more motivated than I was maybe a year back.
I can understand.
Because it's there's this drive, right? So and I think in the middle of all of this, I've completely let go of all any kind of acting. And I think I'd really like to do something, whether it's theatre, which is not an everyday shoot, but just something.
We are thinking of production, so if I come across a good story, I will come to you.
Please tell me, because only then will I take care of myself and I will go to the gym properly, like take care, right? So I think in this whole, keep quiet,
I swear to God.
So I think self-care is something that so many women let go of, and so have I, right? And I'm not being a martyr.
So, but if that's how you feel, then...
No, I have.
Then that's what you should work on.
So plus 12 kilos and all of that. But, so it's tough, right? You have like menopause and you have so many issues that happen to a woman. But the point is, you don't let go. And you don't let go thinking it's okay. And, especially when you have like a winning mindset with everything else and not with yourself. That's not cool. So I need to get my shit together.
Good for you. We'll do
I'm
that.
gonna.
I'll wait for the updates.
Then I'm gonna be sitting like you, like that, and not like that, trying to cover my belly. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna end this with one fun segment. Okay, because you've been, a great actor. We're going to give you situations, and you have to just respond to them either with like a hand gesture or a facial expression. And like how would you react without words to a certain situation? Very simple.
Let's see.
When somebody says, "What does an actor know about business?" Nice.
I really should say something to it. No, I'm just joking.
It's on YouTube. One can cut.
No. Let me. I can't.
Okay.
So all through. Anyway, it's a rapid fire, so let's just do it that way. But I'm just telling you.
But finish your story.
All through my when I was an actor. आपने MBA किया तो फिर इतना पढ़ाई करने के बाद अभी क्या वेस्ट हो जाएगा? ऐसे वेस्ट कभी जिंदगी में नहीं होता है.
और फिर उल्टा भी सुनने को मिला.
You know what I mean? So it's like an education never fails you.
I agree.
And whatever experience I've had as an actor also will never fail me. So I'm just saying, So
your husband is so successful. Why do you need to work?
Same expression. Duh.
The world is kinder to her because she's beautiful. It might be true.
It may be. It may be. But, if you're blessed.
And if you're kind yourself,
so Boman always says,
will be kind.
You are blessed with a personality that, people love. And use that as an advantage and be humble about it, right? So, I mean, maybe a lot more doors open for me. But a lot of doors don't also open for me because I look the way I look, right? So, I remember when I was doing my MBA, I was the youngest in my program. And, I was never chosen to be part of any case study. Like the last, you know what I mean? Like, okay, form your own groups, guys. We're going to do this. And then, okay, like I would be asked the last because, she's pretty, she must be dumb. Till you hear me present, till you hear me speak, and then they take you seriously. So I'm just saying, so when I walk into a business meeting as well, right? Initially they'll be like, really? It's especially if I'm going to like an office in Bangalore or Hyderabad. Like a modern retail, and I'm meeting a new category head or category manager, and they'll be like, really? isn't she the actress? They'll come and take some pictures and all. But you know that they're imagining me to be this person.
Yeah.
And then I have to prove myself
Yeah.
to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So I think it's not always worked to my advantage.
Yeah.
Whilst it has, it's also hugely worked to my disadvantage.
Yeah. Fair
You know,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When somebody says, I loved watching your husband in Three Idiots.
Three?
Boman Irani. Yeah.
Oh God, it was okay. I'm like, what? I was
See,
like,
now we know you don't watch
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
only.
I'm like wondering, Three Idiots, Mama.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
you'd be like, yeah.
I'm like,
Mock meat is as good as the real thing.
impossible, impossible. Please.
Yeah.
You know, you either be vegetarian or you have real meat. You please don't have any of this in-between stuff, which is full of like additives and a whole lot of nonsense
Yeah.
to make you imagine that you're eating meat. Please do not do that.
Yeah.
It's complete crap.
So
please.
0 to mock
Please.
meat. Yeah.
You either eat vegetarian food and just be a happy
Yeah.
vegetarian,
Yeah.
or you eat chicken happily.
Yeah.
Please don't do this in-between nonsense, please.
Haan, theek hai,
So
fair
I
enough.
would never do mock meat,
Okay.
ever, as a
Done.
company.
So now then I won't get to taste the Zorabian.
No, I'll do some vegetarian products.
Haan,
So, you know, we have,
perfect.
for example, we have a cheese and onion sausage, which is chicken. So my brother's so huge into vegetarianism, right?
Yeah.
So he has a cheese and onion sausage, which is made out of green peas,
Oh, wow.
right? But of course, we've not launched it, but it's not mock meat.
Haan, theek hai, but that's,
So,
if it's tasty, it's tasty. It doesn't
So
have
there's
to be
no
mock
soya,
meat.
woya nonsense, which
Yeah.
is anyway not good for you and
Yeah.
not good for, you know, a woman at all.
Yeah.
So none of that stuff.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you,
You-
Peri. We had such a
Thank
fun
you,
chat.
Thank you. And
Thank you for
I'm
coming.
looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah.
And you're stunning and gorgeous, and I hope my daughter becomes as confident and as lovely and exuberates this kind of radiance.
Thank you.
I'm sure Boman and me both, wish that for our daughter.
She just needs to be like you guys,
Huh?
and she will. Now, such good genes, you
No,
can't
yeah.
go wrong.
No, babe. You know, it's like Gen Next, so is so much smarter, I think.
Yeah, they are.
And just so much. I see you. I see like. So I'm in awe, right? I see someone who's confident, smart, down to earth, driven. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think I had your confidence when I was. I'm just saying. No. That doesn't mean. You know what? It's different. Like, I don't know how to explain to you.
Okay,
like,
I'll take
the
it.
exposure, the
Yeah.
it's amazing. God bless you.
I'll take it.
More
Thank
power
you.
to you. More power to you.
Thank you so
And
much.
you know, cheer for your tribe.
Thank
And
you.
keep inspiring every woman out there.